Hello, welcome back. So we're going to be looking at loops and how they compare to just, mapping over data on a regular function, right? So we have our request step to get all of our to-dos. And after we're done fetching all of our to-dos, what we want to do is add a new step. And this step is going to be of the type loop. It's going to be the loop building block. And it actually gives you, it allows you to get what array you want to iterate through, you want to go through, right? So I'm going to rename this to L to-dos, and I'm going to select RQ, which stands for request. In my case, it's an abbreviation, and it actually allows you to add conditions, to check for conditions on each and every one of the items, but we're not gonna look at that right now. And what I want to do is, if you go over what it says loop and you hover over there, you can see that you can add a new step. And this in this case, what I want to do is I want to add a function, and this function will run for each and every one of the iterations, right? For each and every one of the items on the array. All right, so what I want to do, what I know that I want to get from the array is I want to get the title, and I want to get if it's completed or not. So let's go ahead and add a text property in here, and let's check if it's completed. Then we're gonna return a check, and if it's not completed, then we're gonna return a cross, right? Across. What's happening? All right, and let's add some space in here, a dash, and I'm gonna add the title. So it's pretty much the same logic as we had on the video on where we did, we just fetch the information and we map each and every one of the to-dos by using a function. But in this case, the function is going to be invoke for each and every one of the to-dos, right? So it's sort of like a different approach. Also, I want to rename this to F format to do, or yeah, formatted to do, formatted to do. Cool. So a very important thing that I want to mention here is that if you want to access whatever is on the current scope of the item on the index that you're going through, right? So if it's an array, you're obviously going through each and every one of the items. How do you know what item you're in to sort of get the whatever data you want from that item? So two ways you can approach this. The first one is you can use a spread operator in here, which we've talked about before. And there's a very special value. There's a special value that you can use, which is $item, which will tell Buildable if we're on a loop, right? If we're on a function inside a loop, it will tell the recipe to look at the current item, right? So we're looking at the current item and we're spreading the value from that item. That's why we're going to have access to all of the values from that to do, in this case, title and completed. And we're going to be able to show them, to get them from here on the function scope, and we're going to be able to return them, right? Cool. So next thing that we want to do after we have, after this function is being invoked for each and every one of the to-dos in here, we want to go into a response step. And obviously I've changed it because I was playing with it before, but what you need to do is you want to get, you want to have a spread operator in here, a spread key, and then you want to get your L to-dos. So you're getting all of the data from L to-dos. So the loop from looping all of the to-dos, right? And what this will give you is if the data changes, so if you're sort of adding something to the data, in our case, we are adding a new property, which is F formatted to do, it will append that to the current item. Whereas if you have a function that just maps. So if you have a to-do list and you do to-do list.map, then you take out all of the things that you don't want from all of the to-dos. What this does and how it compares to just iterating through a regular function is that you don't take anything out of the original object, you're just adding to it, you're appending new properties to it, right? From it for each and every one of the functions or the logic that you're adding in here. In your case, because it's a function, we're going to be adding data to the to-do, right? So let's test the recipe, right? So request to-dos, we see that we get the output in here. And as I was saying, we're going to get a new property, which is f formatted to do. And we have the text that we have established into our function. And we're going to have a cross if it's not done and a check if it's done, right? So L to do's gives us an array of objects with a new property, and our response gives us that as well. All right, cool. So let's hop over into Postman and check that in here, and it's the same endpoint. So I'm just gonna click send, and we don't need any payload in here as we have said in the previous video. And I should get f format to do with the new text property. All right. Also, the other thing that I wanted to mention is that if you don't want to use the spread key in here, what you can also do is you can have, for instance, the property that you want to access, and whoops, I don't know what's happening. You can have, for instance, title, and in here you can do $item.title, and this will tell the function to map the title property that you're trying to access to the current index that the loop is going through. We can also have completed, and yeah, you know where I'm going with this. You have item.completed. Cool. So this should be the exact equivalent of using the spread key and having the $item, because at the end you're just spreading the values of the object. And if we go in here and actually test our recipe, let's make sure that everything works the same. Yeah, it's still working the same. So there you have two different approaches. So the first one is consuming data by using the request building block, and then just having a function that maps over all of your data, and you can format it on a function, or you can have a loop sort of step. You can have a loop building block in here, and then you can invoke a function for each and every one of the elements or items inside of that array, which is simply going to append a new property into the item. It's not going to change it, which I think it's nice if you want to keep the original structure of the item. So that's basically how they're different from one another. So on the next video, we're going to be looking at services, right? So stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next video.